Hello again, welcome to PaintersBlock. I'm your host, Anthony Ryden, and today we will be covering the Armored Mega Gargant and how I paint his helmet. I'm going to be showing you how I use some blue tones and some brown tones to help me create some better shading to my gunmetal and to my greedy gold mixture. So here's what we have so far on the Armored Gargant, and as you can see, we're going to start over here on the helmet. I've got all the ropes all done earlier, and his chest piece is coming together real nice. He looks like he may have had a fight with some Power Rangers, and he may have won. But anyways, we're going to grab some deep blue from Army Painter. You can use whatever deep blue, just a dark deep blue. And this is going to give us a more realistic, deeper shadows to our metallics. Now, when doing slap chop with the whites and the grays, metallics tend to not look so nice with that type of style. So I actually do like to use different shades of the correct underlying tones, which would be like blue for silvers, browns for golds. So this is just how I kind of do that, and you can, if you feel like it, you can copy this style, or maybe you can tell me what style you like or what type of metals you enjoy. I tend to think that this looks a little bit metallic, and I really like the chrome edge that we'll put on later. But for this step, all we're going to do is we're just going to put a nice deep blue layer on any of the parts that are going to be a gunmetal or a silver tone, or anything with that silver underlying tone. We're going to use this deep blue to give us a nicer shade in our recesses. And we're just going to make sure to get both sides and just take a minute to look at your model and what you're going to want to hit. Now, a lot of the details get lost whenever I'm kit bashing like this, because either there's a little bit of glue around, which tends to get rid of some of the detail, or if I didn't clean it enough, or if I just lost some of the detail when priming or putting other colors down. It's always good to know how to paint those details back on, like the ropes and whatnot. Sometimes you'll just get primer in there, you're going to lose some details throughout your hobby life, so it's always good to learn how to draw in those details with your paintbrush as well. So this next step I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the electric blue from Army Painter. Basically, I'm just going up in brightness in my shade of blue, whatever type of paint you like to use. And using a nice fine detail brush, pretty much the whole time I'm kind of using a nice fine detail brush, because the helmets have kind of small detail plating that I need to deal with. So generally I like to use the number 2 or the number 3 brush. Now I'm going to use like an extra small detail brush. This one comes from Citadel. I'll put a link in the description below, but you can use any small detail brush. And now I'm grabbing the electric blue, and I'm just going to be tapping onto those blue parts that we already painted. Any of those areas that I believe the light is going to hit, this is going to start fading into our brighter areas of our gunmetal. And if you like this, please leave a like, and follow us here on YouTube and Instagram, and maybe hit that notification bell so you can keep seeing what's going on, and give me more tips and advice, or I can give you some tips and advice, and I hope we could just help each other break each other's painter's block. I love this community and how we tend to help each other, and it's been really great so far. So anyways, as you're looking over at the top of the model, this is kind of the best way to look at how you're going to highlight things, because as they call it the zenithal highlight, which is just the zenith of your highlight, meaning that's wherever the highest point of the sun or whatever your light source is, you want to look at that point as your highlight and try to paint as if that is your light source. And then if you get more advanced, then generally you want to throw in like 1 or 2 more light source areas so that it's a little bit more interesting. But at first, start with a zenithal, which is just from the top. Now moving on to the next step, we're grabbing our titanium white, like Bob Ross always likes. I would put that little image in there, but I think it actually crashes my program, so I'm going to leave that off until I figure that out a bit better. Sorry guys. Yeah, we're just grabbing that titanium white, and I didn't want to bore you with it. I just tapped inside of wherever we had the electric blue just a slight bit, and that's all I did. It just lined it, And also then afterwards, after I'm done with that, I'm grabbing the gunmetal. I thinned it out a little bit, and now I'm going to cover all of that area that we just painted with blues, or electric blue, the deep blue, and the titanium white. And we're just going to go in, and with our thinned gunmetal, it's going to cover in, and it doesn't look like it gets the shade right away, but as it dries, because our acrylics do dry darker, and it is a little bit more transparent because we've thinned it, it's going to show those fine detailed shadows. Now the horn that we have right there I have very bright because it's out in the daylight. I don't want a lot of shadow, that just seems a little weird, but you can tell from this top part right over here that it has a really nice like shadow. Later on I'll show you again where we can see that, but for this first little bit, you can see that we just got in this little back corner underneath the top ridge, just any part that we had blue we hit with that gunmetal, and as that dries, it's going to show off those little shadows. It's gonna look really nice, and it's just trust the process. Now, after you get your oak brown from your painter set or whatever dark, deeper brown, you're gonna start putting that wherever you want to hit gold. This makes a really good gold tone. I put it in the slap chop video before. I'll put a link in the description below for that video if you'd like to take a look. But it's just a really nice way to start off our gold tones so that we don't have to put multiple layers of gold. And when you're doing a slap chop method, it's actually really nice to thin out the brown and then do this. That way you can get your shadows, but we're not going to do the slap chop method for this. Now, doing our old-fashioned a highlighting process done ahead of time. We're going to do our shading and a highlighting before we actually put our greedy gold down. And I do apologize. I don't know what's going on with my editing software. It keeps crashing on me, so I'm trying to get the audio down. But like I said, it keeps crashing on me. Apologize. But anyways, I'm grabbing my oak brown and I'm putting it all over. Now this is the same exact step that I do for the chest piece emblem, and this is the same chest piece or the same shield that I use for its chest piece emblem. So in case you were wondering what I was doing for that. Next I use the desert brown from our army painter, and this makes a nice yellowish brown highlight as a pre-tone to our greedy gold. Now you can, there's like two ways to kind of do your highlights and your tones to your painting, and that is either A, doing this like previously, tends to be like the slap chop method, which I think slap chop is really good to learn and get into this method, but the other method is glazing, and then that is actually applying a base and then thinly applying lighter coats of paint, and that's a great method. A lot of people tend to use their tongue and spit to do that, and I don't do that. You don't have to do that, but you need to constantly get it wet a little bit more and more every time you glaze to make it look really nice. So to get your best glazing, that's kind of what you have to do, and I'm not going to do that. So up to you. If you want to lick your paint, totally go for it. I'm not judging, but I'm not going to do it. Anyways, so I'm grabbing that desert yellow, and I'm going to tap all of these little corners wherever I think the gold is going to get hit by sunlight. And I'm just using this time to really do some me time and little practice time. I think this is always good for everyone to get into. You should always learn how to do your edge highlighting. I don't like to do too much edge highlighting generally, although on this one I do a lot of edge highlighting because I really get into it. It's my me time, and you know what? I'm having fun. This is a kit bash, and it's my model. So, and it's for you guys too. So we're gonna all have fun, and we're gonna all learn how to edge highlight and do whatever we need to do to become better painters and break our painter's block. And grabbing that desert yellow, you're just going to grab each of these little raised surfaces, just giving a little bit more detail to this shield. Now giving all these little highlights. Now I grabbed the titanium white in between this process. I just don't want to bore you guys, and I did most of the highlighting itself. I'll show you a little bit right now what I did, but I'm just grabbing a little bit of that titanium white, and I'm going back over where I put that desert yellow, and I'm just accenting it a little bit more, because when we put that greedy gold over these, it's going to really have this nice little transition. Yeah, that titanium white. Now, just make sure to thin your paint out a little bit more, I have my heater on, and it got my titanium white a little bit chalkier. Plus, I haven't gotten that better consistency of titanium white. Mine's a little bit more like toothpaste, which is sometimes kind of nice, but not really what I'm going for right here. Plus, I worry about that chalky consistency a little too much from it. But I am tapping the edges just like I did with the desert yellow, but maybe just a slight bit less, because you don't want to cover all of that desert yellow. But it's gonna make for some nice highlights. This is gonna be the very top of his head. Hi, Tomato. Do you want to be part of the video again? You always seem to be. Alright, and this is just going to be the top of his head, so it's where all the sun's going to be hitting. So I really want it to really pop this emblem, but I also don't want to get rid of any of that brown where the shield is, because it's going to really make this nice tone to our gold to really pop out this emblem. So now grabbing my greedy gold from Army Painter, which I really love this tone of gold. It's so rich. It's a nice consistency. I don't have to thin it. I really recommend this gold from Army Painter. If you do have a preference on gold, I would love to try it out though. If you could put in the comment down below, I'll love to grab some and maybe give it a shot in the next video. But here I'm just grabbing that greedy gold. It's already pretty much pre-thin, and I'm going over what we just painted with all those browns and that white, and it's gonna make a really nice tone. Now you could stop here and have a nice rich gold with all these fades. Now I do go in with a chrome or a shining silver, and I'm gonna make it look a little bit sharper. And I do that just because I'm doing a little bit of practice, and because I'm kind of tying it together with the rest of my armor that I have going. And I kind of feel like it makes it look a little bit scrappier. I don't know, let me know what you feel like below, if you think it looks, maybe if it looks scrappier, or if it looks a little too clean. I don't know, I felt like it looked like it was scrapped out, like it's been thinned out from how much it's been used and like battered, but could just be me. I'd love to know your opinion. But here I'm just applying that greedy gold all over to those brown areas, and it makes a really nice tone. And it's really pretty easy. Kind of the same method that we did with the slap chop, just pre-toning before we do the actual coat. Now I just wanted to point out that the silver, it looks really nice already with the shading, and that's what that blue does, is it goes into those recesses and it makes that silver look more realistic, because normally we use a shade of black, which isn't really normal. Even in movies and whatnot, they'll use a blue light for nighttime. As you can see right where my brush is, that blue going to silver, it just looks so nice. Even though it's very subtle, you wouldn't really notice it normally. It really adds something. I just wanted to point that out there. I said it earlier, I just wanted you to see and just show you how the process ultimately builds into it, and it looks really nice. But you don't have to do that. You could just do a metal and then a wash. It'll look totally fine, and then do a chrome afterwards. But this is one other step, and I tend to like it just because I like how that blue shadow tends to look. Up to you, and I'd like to know what your opinion on it is too. Is it just way too long? I'd rather just get it done faster, paint the metal and then the wash and have a little highlight? Or is this a nice step, just to add that blue shadow to you? Please let me know. I'd love to know your opinion. So here I'm just putting that greedy gold down all over the crown. I'm making him look a little bit more royal. This is my King Broad. He's made it to the 40k universe. He's avoided the Emperor, but he's about to bring him down. Well, I hope. Anyways, so I'm grabbing that greedy gold and I'm putting it on that emblem on top of his head. And here you're going to be able to see it covers it mostly. You're probably thinking, well, where did all that work go? Now, like I said, that silver already showed how that work doesn't go away. That acrylic is going to fade and dry over time, and you're going to see that richness from that brown going into that lightness. And wherever those light parts are, if they aren't light enough, we can always tap it with chrome. And there you can see it's looking already nice and rich. It needs to dry a little bit longer, but it's going to get pretty nice already. And you can use a little bit of a dark tone too, just to bring it out. So here I'm going to use shining silver, and this is my chrome, but you can use chrome. This is just a good way of edge highlighting. It's going to give our blade a little bit more of a sharp feel, and it's going to give all of our gold a more worn edge highlight that just makes it look shinier, a little bit more worn to me. Looks a little scrappier. but let me know how you feel about it too. Did I do a little too much of it? Should I back it up? Because I can always put a little bit more gold on there. Now here I can show you my process of how I put that chrome on there, or that silver. And I'm just tapping the raised surfaces, trying to make that light look like it's really bouncing off of it. Now here we go, we're almost done. And we're pretty much at the end of this whole helmet. We're just going to add maybe some rust later on, some calcium buildup. But here first we're going to put some dark tone all over. Now I wash it down with a little bit of my thinning solution. I'll put a link in the description below for what I use for the Liquitex thinning solution. But here you can see just the richness kind of got covered up a little bit too much. Maybe I need to thin out the greedy gold a little bit. But here you can just put that dark tone right over it, and it just brings out that richness right again. I really like that dark tone from Armored Painter. Tomato, calm down. You've already eaten 3 times today. Alright, so now you're going to put this all over, get those recesses, and give those details a little bit more of an outline. And here you go, it's already coming together. Emerald green mauve is the next step. And this is one of our color shifters that normally you'd use in an airbrush. But as long as you have a black surface, you can just, you use a black surface for the airbrush too. But with the black surface, you can use a brush. And that's what we're going to do. And I'm just going to apply this about 2-3 times really loosely. And the nice thing about this, it's very liquidy consistency. So you can just easily kind of push this into this crevice right here. And I'm just going to make this a little bit of an interesting piece. I wanted to make it a little different than the rest of everything. And as you can see, it just makes this really interesting color shift from green into this mauve color. And it's pretty fun. So there you have it. We have the Armored Mega Gargant. And we're going to keep going with this helmet in the next episode. And I'd like to know in the comments below what you'd like to see. And please, if you'd like to see rust, or if you'd like to see it shiny, or if you just liked what we have going already, please thank you for coming in, and I hope we helped you break your painter's block.